Hey guys, welcome to another online math class. This video will be about bivariate data and scatterplots. And by the end of this lesson, we should know what bivariate data is, be able to draw a scatterplot, and finally be able to describe the correlation in a scatterplot. Let's just pause the video here and take a couple of minutes to write these down. Alright, so starting off with what bivariate data is. Bivariate data is just data for two variables. These two variables are usually related, such as height and weight. And the variable that is changed or controlled, also known as the independent variable, is on the x-axis, so going from left to right. Otherwise, the other variable, the dependent variable, the one being tested or measured, is on the y-axis, as you can see there. So from this slide, just make sure you've got that definition down for bivariate data, and also make sure you've got these two notes down as well. So just pause the video here and take a couple of notes there. So once you've been given your scatterplot or have created one, you might see these terms here: relation, correlation, or association. All these words are used to describe the way in which variables are related. So there are a few ways to describe the relationship, correlation, or association, and we're just going to stick with the term correlation for now. And the first one is a strong positive correlation. A scatterplot is called strong when they are closely together in a straight line. So if it looks like a straight line, it means it's strong. It's going to be positive if the scatter dots go up from left to right, so a positive gradient. So if I draw a line in there again, the line's going up from left to right, so that's where I get positive from. Another type, this one's weak negative correlation. So if you have a look at here, they're still kind of in a straight line, but they're much more spread out than we can see here. So the more spread out they are, the weaker the correlation is. That's where we get the name weak from. This is also negative because the line or the scatter is going down from left to right. So that's a negative gradient, so that's where we get negative from. So in this case, it's a weak negative correlation. So you could also have a weak positive correlation. Could be more scattered like that. You could also have a strong negative as well. And our last type is no correlation. So if we have a look here, all the dots are scattered randomly. There's no real pattern there. So if you can't see a straight line, it means there is no correlation. From a scatterplot, we also need to be able to identify outliers. And as you can see here, outliers can be seen as isolated from the rest of the data. So the bulk of the data, as you can see, is in that group here. There's just one random value outside that will be your outlier there. Alright, so let's have a go at some example questions now. Our first thing we need to do is draw a scatterplot for the data. We're going to need a Cartesian plane for this, so just sketch one, doesn't have to be too good. I'll just use this pre-created one here. Alright, once I've got that, I'm just going to draw each point in there. So the first one, my x value is going to be 13, whereas my y value is going to be 2.1. So 13 is here, 2.1 is going to be around there. Next one, 9, 4.0, that's going to be right there. Next one's 2, 6.2, which is right there. And I'll just skip over and complete all these. And that's what your scatter plot should look like once you have completed it. Next step, it says describe the correlation between x and y as positive or negative. So if you have a look here, the scatter or the dots are going down from left to right. So for question B, you'd say that it is negative. And question C, it says describe the correlation between x and y as strong or weak. And if you have a look, most of the data is pretty close in a straight line, so I would say this is a strong correlation. So for question C, your answer will be strong. And question D, identify any outliers. So we can see one that's away from the rest of the data, so that one there would be your outlier. So just write the value. Outlier is at 6, 0.9, just write the coordinates there. Alright, so now I've got a very similar question here. Pause the video, have a go at this one by yourself, and just unpause it once you're ready to go through it with me. So once again, our first part of the question is to draw a scatterplot for the data. So let's go and do that. So first point is at 12, 4.0. So x is 12, y is 4.0. Next point is at 2, 1.3. So that's about there. Next one's at 15, 4.5. So that's about here. And I'll just skip over and complete the rest of these. And once you've plotted your points, that's what your scatterplot should look like. So give yourself a tick if you got that correct. Now going to question B, it says describe the correlation between x and y as positive or negative. It goes up from left to right, so this one will be positive. Question C, is it strong or weak? They are pretty much all bunched up together in a straight line, so I would say this one is strong. And question D, identify any outliers. There's one outside of the rest of the data, so that will be an outlier, and find the coordinates for that. This one will be 13.2.0. So my outlier is at 13.2.0. Give yourself a tick for each one you got correct there. Alright, so that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys all back online.